Okay, just tell us, just list the problems with the Commissioner that the AGSI is having.
The biggest problems the AGSI is having at the moment is the lack of discussion, negotiation or consultation. New policies are being introduced all over the place without any discussions, and we have had at one stage to ask the Minister to intervene in relation to a policy in relation to crime management to get the policy withdrawn under such times we sat down and negotiated, and that's been an ongoing problem. We have it with crime management, we have it with a circular that came out in relation to the management and custody of prisoners in Garda stations. I'm an SHO since 2003. The last training I had was in September 2003. Legislation has completely changed in that 12 years, and that's an issue for us.
You're saying the Minister has been more accommodating than the Commissioner
Yes.
in relation to engagement?
Yes.
What do you want from the Commissioner?
What we want from the Commissioner is exactly what we have with the Minister. Every quarter we have a meeting in our office with our officials. We go through and we have a look at what the problems are. There's new legislation being introduced. We're involved in the negotiations in relation to that legislation. Our issues, we can highlight them. We have problems in relation to custody of prisoners in Garda stations when they're drunk. We have asked the Minister to look at the legislation and introduce legislation similar to what's available if we have a drink driver and we can keep them in custody for 6 hours. They're the simple things. The other one is the inspectors slate us in relation to domestic violence. We have no power in relation to domestic violence unless there's an order in place. So what we've asked the ministers to look at changing Section 2 of the non-fatal to give us the power of arrest. So if there's an incident in a domestic violence case where somebody's assaulted, we have the power to arrest. There are some of the simple things that our staff and things are looking at, and we think that's very positive.
But the Commissioner can't do that.
No, but that's where we're talking. I'm just comparing the Minister.
Well, what can the Commissioner do?
The Commissioner, she can sit down and talk to us. She can turn up to meetings where she arranges them and doesn't turn up. We threaten to walk out and she arrives back. They're the sort of things we're talking about. If she arranges a meeting, she should be there, not sending other staff in her place.
It's a very personalised attack, isn't it?
It is personal because there are huge problems. We're being stripped of resources. We have no funding. We have no IT, and still we're being loaded. I don't know how many times over the last few years I have stated that the administration burden is becoming too much. It's now reached critical. No more sticky plasters. She has to deal with the administration burden. Sergeants are not have enough. A lot of sergeants are talking about they're 30 years done, they've had enough, they're going to walk away. Something has to be done.
Last year, Tim, you welcomed the appointment of the Commissioner. She promised a new era in the Garda Síochána. Are you saying today that she hasn't lived up to those expectations?
Yes. As far as AGSI is concerned, she hasn't. She's treated us with disdain and she has ignored us. And we just think we are members of Garda Síochána. We're entitled as employees to have our say, and we're being ignored.
What about losing 30 people a month across all ranks? What would you say to the Commissioner about this?
Well, that's not the Commissioners, that's more the Minister. But it is an issue, and what's happening is it's stretching what few resources we have in a major way, because we're all trying to fill in for the gaps that are being left behind. At the moment we just can't cope. We have issues. If you take water protests for one example, it is stripping us of what resources we have in the city, in Dublin, and we're still expected to provide the service for everybody else, and we just don't have the resources.
You've talked about the harassment on social media as well. Just explain that. What's going on?
Well, the prime example would be some of the protests where photographs were taken of guards. It was put up on social media looking for the name and the address of the guard and where their families are going to school. That sort of intimidation. Now, thankfully, the Commissioner has taken that on board, and Assistant Commissioner Toomey is in charge of a working group that's looking at investigating all of those incidents to look at prosecutions. But it is an issue. It is certainly in the city. It's an issue.
What would you be happy with today as a result of this conference and the ministers or the Commissioner's engagement with you?
Well, what we want is proper consultation. If we could organise that we meet her every quarter, every 3 or 4 months, sit down, hear our issues, see where we can develop the services that we are required to give to the public. And at the moment, there is no interaction in that regard.
The last engagement you had with her was in February, is that right?
That's correct.
That doesn't seem that long ago in terms of trying to keep the timeline of communication open.
Yes, that is true, yes. But that's not, that's dealing with one topic or one function. There are a whole myriad of issues going on all over the country. And if you saw all the motions today, it's all to do with resourcing, proper policies and procedures, how things are carried out, how things are done. directives are issued, but there's no follow-up on how the directives are to be carried out. And that has been the downfall of the Garda organisation for 40 years. Every report that's come out in the last 40 years has condemned us for it. And the inspectorate last November, in their releasing their document, said Garda Síochána has no standard operating procedures for anything. And we want that to change. And that has to start from the Commissioner. She is the employer, she is the number one in Garda Síochána, and she has to take responsibility.
Is she doing a good job?
She's certainly doing a good job for what is required. But for us, as I said, we're not happy with our interaction with her.
Is the honeymoon over?
Okay, folks, come on. Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot.